In the mountains of Lebanon sits a Roman temple built on top of stones so massive that modern cranes can't lift them. We're talking about blocks of limestone weighing over 1,000 tons each, precisely cut and fitted together thousands of years ago. The largest stone ever used in construction anywhere on Earth weighs an estimated 1,650 tons and sits in a quarry 3/4 of a mile away, abandoned mid-transport, as if the ancient builders suddenly vanished. This is Baalbek, and it presents an engineering problem that we still can't fully solve. How did anyone move stones weighing as much as 3 Boeing 747 jumbo jets using ancient technology? And here's the truly unsettling part. The Romans built magnificent temples on top of these megaliths, but there's compelling evidence they didn't actually move the giant stones themselves. Someone else did. Someone earlier. Someone we know almost nothing about. The modern town of Baalbek in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley doesn't look particularly special at first glance. It's a modest city that's been through decades of conflict and political instability. But walk into the archaeological site at the town center, and you'll find yourself standing before one of the most baffling construction mysteries in human history. 6 massive columns, soaring nearly 70 feet into the air, remnants of the Temple of Jupiter, one of the largest Roman temples ever constructed. The scale is breathtaking, but look down beneath the Roman construction, and you'll see something that makes the Roman work look almost primitive by comparison. The foundation of the temple complex contains stones called the Trilithon, 3 colossal limestone blocks, each approximately 64 feet long, 14 feet high, and 12 feet deep. Modern calculations put their weight at around 800 to 1,000 tons each. These aren't rough boulders. These are precisely cut rectangular blocks with smooth surfaces and sharp edges, fitted together so tightly that you can barely see the joints. And they're positioned 20 feet above ground level, incorporated into a massive retaining wall that supports the temple platform above. The Romans were exceptional engineers. They built the Colosseum, the Pantheon, aqueducts that still function today, road networks spanning continents. They had extensive experience with large-scale construction using concrete, arches, cranes, and sophisticated lifting devices. Roman engineers documented their techniques extensively. We have detailed knowledge of how they built most of their structures. But nowhere in Roman engineering texts is there any description of how to move and lift stones weighing 1,000 tons. The simple reason is that they couldn't. The largest stones the Romans are known to have moved weigh around 300 tons, and those required extraordinary efforts with massive teams and specialized equipment. So if the Romans didn't place the Trilithon, who did? This is where things get genuinely mysterious. The site of Baalbek is ancient, with evidence of settlement going back thousands of years. The Phoenicians knew the site as Baalbek, meaning Lord of the Bekaa Valley, and considered it sacred long before the Romans arrived. When the Romans conquered the region in the 1st century BCE, they found existing massive stone platforms and decided to build their temple complex on top of this ready-made foundation. Roman historians and geographers occasionally mention Baalbek, but rarely discuss the foundation stones, treating them as if they'd always been there. This suggests the Romans themselves didn't know who built the platform. Or if they did know, the information was lost to later generations. The Romans added to the complex, building magnificent temples, courtyards, and decorative elements. But the truly impossible stones, the Trilithon and even larger foundation blocks beneath them, appeared to predate Roman occupation. Archaeological evidence suggests the massive platform was constructed in phases over a long period, possibly beginning as early as the Bronze Age, around 3,000 years ago or even earlier. Some researchers point to similarities with other megalithic sites in the Levant and Mediterranean, suggesting this could be part of a broader tradition of massive stone construction that we've only partially understood. But the engineering challenges are extraordinary. Let's focus on the stone of the pregnant woman, also called Hajar al-Hibla, which sits in the quarry about a quarter mile from the temple complex. This single stone weighs an estimated 1,000 tons. A second stone nearby, called the Stone of the South, weighs approximately 1,200 tons. And a third stone, only discovered in 2014, weighs an estimated 1,650 tons, making it the largest hewn stone block anywhere in the world. These stones were quarried, shaped, and prepared for transport, but never actually moved to the construction site. They sit in the quarry, still attached to the bedrock at one end, tilted at an angle, clearly intended for use but abandoned. Why? What happened to stop their transport? Did the builders run out of resources? Did political instability interrupt the work? Did the engineering challenge prove insurmountable even for them? We simply don't know. The quarrying technique itself is impressive. The builders cut trenches around the perimeter of the desired block, then used wedges, probably wooden wedges soaked with water that expanded to create pressure, to separate the stone from the underlying bedrock. The precision of the cuts suggests metal tools, probably bronze or possibly iron, and an enormous investment of labor. Quarrying 1,000-ton stone would have taken hundreds of workers' months or even years. But quarrying is the easy part compared to transport. How do you move something that weighs 1,000 tons over uneven terrain for 3/4 of a mile, then lift it 20 feet into the air and set it precisely into position? Modern heavy lifting equipment struggles with loads this size. The largest mobile crane in the world today can lift about 3,000 tons, but it requires a massive stable platform, precise load calculations, and advanced engineering. The ancient builders had none of this. Numerous theories have been proposed. The most conventional suggests thousands of workers using wooden rollers, ropes, and lever systems, possibly combined with earthen ramps. The problem is the mathematics. To move 1,000-ton stone on wooden rollers, you'd need hundreds of rollers, each capable of bearing enormous point loads without shattering. You'd need thousands of workers pulling in perfect coordination. The ropes would need to be extraordinarily strong, probably made from twisted animal hide or plant fibers, and you'd need hundreds of them. Some researchers have calculated that moving the Trilithon stones would have required 10,000 to 40,000 workers pulling simultaneously, assuming optimal conditions would reduce friction and coordinated effort. That's not impossible, but it raises questions about social organization. Who could mobilize that many workers? How did they coordinate the effort? How did they feed and house tens of thousands of people for the duration of the project? There are also more exotic theories involving water and buoyancy. Some engineers have suggested that the stones could have been floated on wooden pontoons in artificial canals or water-filled trenches, reducing the effective weight and making transport easier. This is intriguing but would require massive infrastructure, dams, canals, water management systems. There's no archaeological evidence of this at Baalbek, though absence of evidence isn't conclusive, especially given millennia of subsequent construction and modification. Another theory involves ancient understanding of acoustic levitation or harmonic resonance, the idea that sound waves at certain frequencies could reduce the effective weight of objects or assist in moving them. This theory is popular in alternative archaeology circles, but has no support in mainstream science. No civilization has demonstrated acoustic levitation capable of affecting multi-ton objects, and the physics don't support such claims with known materials and technologies. What we're left with is a profound mystery. Someone at some point in the distant past developed techniques for moving and placing stones that exceed anything we have clear evidence for in the ancient world. These techniques were sophisticated enough to create structures that have survived millennia and continue to baffle modern engineers. Yet the knowledge was apparently lost, leaving no written records, no detailed depictions, no clear explanation. The Roman construction at Baalbek gives us some context. The Temple of Jupiter that the Romans built on top of the megalithic platform was enormous, with columns nearly 70 feet tall carved from single pieces of Egyptian granite and transported from Aswan, over 1,000 miles away. The Romans clearly had ambition and resources. They created massive courtyards, elaborate decorative elements, and one of the largest religious complexes in the empire. But even they built on top of the existing platform rather than attempting to replicate it. This suggests the Romans recognized their limitations. They could work with large stones, certainly, but nothing approaching the scale of the Trilithon. They incorporated the existing massive foundation into their design, using it as a ready-made platform that elevated their temple and made it more impressive. But they didn't claim credit for building it, and their own construction, while magnificent, operates on a completely different scale. The Temple of Jupiter is partially destroyed now, damaged by earthquakes, medieval fortress construction, and deliberate stone quarrying by later inhabitants who recycled the work stone for their own buildings. Only 6 of the original 54 massive columns remain standing. But the Trilithon and the massive foundation blocks beneath the Roman construction remain largely intact, testament to the superior stability of larger stones. The bigger the block, the more resistant it is to seismic activity, because it can't shift or slide as easily as smaller stones. This might be one reason why the ancient builders used such massive stones. In a seismically active region like Lebanon, which sits on the boundary between the Arabian and African tectonic plates, smaller constructions will be vulnerable to earthquakes. Massive megaliths, properly positioned, create inherently stable structures that can withstand seismic shocks that would topple conventional buildings. The engineering intuition required to understand this without modern seismology is remarkable. Recent archaeological work at Baalbek has uncovered more mysteries. Excavations beneath the Roman levels have found earlier construction phases, pottery, and artifacts suggesting continuous occupation and modification of the site over thousands of years. Some artifacts date to the early Bronze Age, over 4,000 years ago. This supports the theory that the megalithic platform is far older than the Roman temples, possibly predating recorded history in the region. There's also increasing evidence of Phoenician activity at the site. The Phoenicians were master builders and seafarers, known for their advanced engineering and extensive trade networks. They had the organizational capacity and technical knowledge to undertake massive construction projects. Could they have been responsible for the Trilithon? It's possible, though even Phoenician construction elsewhere doesn't match the scale of Baalbek's largest stones. Some researchers have proposed that the megalithic platform was built in collaboration between multiple cultures over extended periods, with each generation adding to and modifying the work of previous generations. This would explain why construction techniques seem to vary in different parts of the complex, and why the largest stones appear to represent an absolute peak of capability that wasn't repeated. The astronomical alignment of the temple complex has also drawn attention. The Temple of Jupiter is oriented to the east, toward the rising sun, consistent with Roman religious practices. But some researchers claim the underlying platform shows alignments to stellar phenomena or solar events that might predate Roman occupation. These claims are controversial and difficult to verify, as subsequent construction and damage have obscured many original features. What's undeniable is that Baalbek represents something exceptional in ancient engineering. The site has been studied by archaeologists, engineers, geologists, and historians for over a century, yet fundamental questions remain unanswered. Every few years, new discoveries or analyses add pieces of the puzzle, but complete picture remains elusive. In 2014, the discovery of the third massive stone in the quarry, the 1,650-ton monster, generated international attention. Here was physical evidence that the ancient builders were pushing even beyond the extraordinary limits represented by the Trilithon. They weren't satisfied with 1,000-ton stones. They wanted to go bigger. What drove this ambition? Religious devotion? Political competition? Engineering pride? The desire to create something that would outlast their civilization and speak to future generations? Standing before the Trilithon today, you can't help but feel humbled. These stones have witnessed the rise and fall of empires: Phoenicians, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Crusaders, Ottomans. They've survived earthquakes, wars, and millennia of weather. Modern visitors from around the world come to photograph them, measure them, and puzzle over them. Engineers bring equipment to analyze them. Archaeologists dig around them looking for clues. And still, the fundamental question persists: how? How did anyone accomplish this? We can propose theories, run calculations, build models, and experiment with techniques. But until someone actually demonstrates moving 1,000-ton stone using only ancient technology, a significant gap remains between theory and proven capability. Baalbek reminds us that ancient peoples were capable of achievements that challenge our assumptions about technological progress. We tend to think of history as a linear progression, each era more advanced than the last. But the evidence suggests something messier. Capabilities that appeared, flourished briefly, and then vanished, leaving only monuments that later generations couldn't replicate or even explain. The massive stones of Baalbek will likely outlast our own civilization. Long after our steel and concrete have crumbled, these limestone megaliths will still be there, still posing their silent question to whoever comes after us. How did they do it? And perhaps more importantly, what else were they capable of that we haven't discovered yet? Somewhere in the ruins of the ancient world, there might be other impossible accomplishments waiting to be found, ready to challenge everything we think we know about what's possible with human ingenuity, determination, and muscle.